Pharrell and Tyson, welcome you guys.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good, and you?
I'm very, very good. How do you like Berlin so far?
Love Berlin. Love.
Right.
I would love this to be my second home.
That's how a lot of people go, as a matter of fact, especially if they come in summer and you realize, like, oh, this is such a nice place. Come back in winter, whole different story. You're here to tell us about a project of yours called Bionic Yarn. What is Bionic Yarn?
Bionic Yarn is a patented yarn spinning method that uses recycled plastic bottle fiber. And it's a 3-layer construction that not only has a sustainable feature to it, but it makes your yarn stronger. You have the opportunity to use organic cotton or other organic materials on the helix. So besides the plastic bottle, you can also incorporate other natural fibers.
Why was this project so appealing to you?
Because it allowed me to sort of counteract some of the other things that I might be doing that are, you know, counterproductive to our own biosphere and ecosystem. And, you know, I got to say to myself, you know what, I am, you know, being cognizant and conscious about, you know, what I'm doing here, my conduct on the planet, you know, with the things that I'm doing. Because maybe the cars that I drive aren't the most eco-friendly. Maybe, you know, the fact that I like, you know, Fiji water or Evian, although I've not seen a glass bottle for Fiji. I mean, not yet. But I love Fiji water. Like, maybe this allows me to feel comfortable in the sense that I am balancing my conduct. Because while I might have a couple of bottles of water, you know, Bionic Yarn is responsible for 2 million plastic bottles being transformed into like yarn that went into fabric that went into the clothes of like Gap or like Timberland or Cole Haan, Montclair, you know, and I got to be creative at the same time and design a couple of pieces for these brands. So it was like a win-win for everyone.
What made him so appealing to you guys?
I think for society to take this on, they have to kind of reinvent the way they're doing business. And I just think him as a creator and artist, his style and approach to things kind of reinvents whatever he does. And to bring that sensibility into the textile sustainability conversation is everything. Because when we were just trying to knock on doors without him there, you know, we don't have the same background or credibility to really take a chance with us. And I think he's taking a lot of chances, and he has taken a lot of chances creatively that have turned into humongous hits and fads. And so companies are kind of scared not to listen to it now.
But you come from a culture that is focused a lot on the individual and the clique. Talking about like no new friends, my clique, my family, if worse comes to worse, my people come first, kind of like that. So,
I was actually outside of that world as a child. I grew up in skateboarding, so that wasn't my world at all. I loved it, and it's a part of, I'm not gonna say, let me take that back. It wasn't that it wasn't a part of my world at all, but it wasn't like the whole of everything. Like when I was a kid, they called me Oreo because I hung with like white boys, and you know, skateboarding is what we understood. And so then I was introduced to music, and that was where I was able to express the things that I loved about hip hop myself through instrumentation. But I wouldn't say that like the view that you're referring to summed me up as a person, because it didn't. In fact, when I was able to actually enter the music industry, the mentality of how I was as a child is what I brought to the game, and I sort of represented like the outsider kid anyway. So it wasn't worst come to worst, my people come first. I just loved that verse from Havoc. I just thought that was ill when he said it, and I thought those beats were incredible. But you know, my childhood was like, you know, Vision Gator, you know, Nadas Kapas, Powell Peralta, you know, Steve Caballero, you know, Christian Hosoi. Those were like the deities to me. those guys.
So, is it?
And they definitely were not thinking about the ecosystem. They were like, you know, no different than what you see when you see Bam, you know, the Viva La Bam show, or you see like Jackass. That was like setting shit on fire. So it was like the complete opposite.
Well, that's so crazy. That's why I find what you're going through even more special, because it seems to me like it's something that you actually you got to that point yourself.
No, that's again.
Uh-huh.
I didn't do it because I was fed up and like, we're not gonna take it, you know, like the movie The Network.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't have one of those moments at all. It was just something that made sense. That's all. And that's really the way I think that we're gonna get it done. Look, man, what humanity has taught us is that like, we don't listen when people preach to us. We have been seeing them same commercials of like, you know, distraught, you know, families.
Sally Fields.
Yeah, Sally Struthers.
Yeah.
You know, we've been seeing those commercials for years. I don't know nobody that give them people money. They don't give a shit. People don't give a shit. But you know what they do? They follow examples that they respect. So that's the route that Brian and Kyon is taking. Is that we're not preaching to anybody. We're just like sort of just taking, making those corrective measures. And if it makes sense to people, we'll do things like this that raise awareness, where none of us are rolling around with t-shirts talking about waste. You know, we're not putting up big giant billboard signs that make you feel guilty. We're gonna leave that up to like the cigarette companies and all those other guys that use scare tactics. But you gotta remember, they have something that we don't. They have a drug that hooks the shit out of you, so that like when you try it, you're convinced that what they've said to you is right. There's no drug in saving the planet. And that's why it's like one of the last things that we pay attention to as a species, because we much rather work super hard and get a fast car, work super hard and get like, you know, the plastic face chick, you know, miles on the private jet, you know, vacations in water where like pigs swim and shit. Like, that's real, by the way, in the Bahamas.
It is real.
But that's what the world has become. The world has become like this big, you know, it's like a movie screen and an audience. And there's like the corporations that can afford to put their shit up on the screens. And then there's like the audience that just sort of follows. There's the sheep. No, there's like the shepherds and the sheeple. That's it. And we're just taking a different route because we realize the other thing is like, you're just spinning your wheels in the mud, man. Like, if you just like take some corrective measures and treat it like tradition, then other people who respect you and see what you're doing, maybe they'll follow.
Do you consider yourself a role model?
No.
Would you be comfortable, or are you comfortable with the fact that people look up to you? Or inspired by you?
I'm comfortable with people understanding that I'm a student and I learn from my mentors. I'm not comfortable with anything else other than that. I don't have business being anything else but being thankful and pointing to all the people that got me to where I am, because that's where it comes from. I'm not a role model. I'm not into it. As a matter of fact, I think the best role models that a person could ever have is their parents when they're raising them, because that's where it should come from first. And that's actually where, like, you know, the being cognizant of like what you're doing to the planet and where we live, that message should come from your parents. You know, when they're teaching you about like teaching you how to read or write, or like when you get a little bit older, as uncomfortable as it might be, sex education, it should also teach you about like, you know, protecting the planet too, not just yourself. I think that is the best way. We need to pay attention to this home because this is the only one that we have. And the ocean was our first home. If you listen to the scientists, like, you know the whole like amoeba, amino acid, you know, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, the fucking killer perfect storm for that to happen. All of a sudden we turn into fucking frogs, and then we turn into like amphibians, and then all of a sudden we're just hopping up playing basketball and shit. Like, you know, cool. If that's the way it is, then, you know, we owe it to the oceans and the current inhabitants there, because they don't deserve to, you know, to have like all the byproducts from like plastic. But look, and that seems like a preaching rant, and that's the last thing I want to do because you're not going to listen to that.
But the thing is that you're not preaching, you're just living it.
That's for like guys who are good at it, who are like real leaders, who do that with their music, like Paul Simon and Bob Dylan and Cat Stevens and
Al Sharpton.
He makes music?
No, he doesn't, but he preaches.
He does.
Yes. I think that's the most, and that's maybe you guys' common denominator, is not accepting limitations. You don't do that with your fashion, you don't do that with your music, and you don't do that with your science.
What are you trying to say about my fashion? I jump out the window?
No, with
No, that's
your
what you're
style.
trying to say. It's cool.
No, with your
it's all right.
designing.
No, it's all right.
Okay, let me rephrase that.
No,
dude.
no, that's cool. She was like, you don't think with limitations with your fashion.
You don't accept limitations.
In other words,
with
Mr.
your-
Williams, your shirt is too pink.
It's not.
Your shit is bright.
Tyson. So Tyson, no, but really, where did you want to take it when you started Bionic?
I wanted to be Gore-Tex of sustainable fabrics. That's what I had in my mind. I don't know if it was going to happen, but like whenever I saw that woven label on Gore-Tex boots or a North Face jacket, I was like, I want this jacket to be as durable and strong, but also have a different message in it, and I want my label to be associated with it.
Last question. Who was the one person that you wanted to be greater than that person?
I don't think like that. Hans Zimmer is the illest. I'll never be better than him. Quincy Jones is the illest. I'll never be better than him. Frank Gehry is the illest. I'll never be better than him. Jeff Koons is the illest. I will never touch his level. Mark Newson will never touch his level. Mark Jacobs, Ray Kawakubo, Junior Watanabe, Albert from Lanvin, Karl Lagerfeld, Mark McNary, Nego will never touch his level. Never. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because it just gives me something to look up to try to touch. Those guys are stars. Can't reach them.